Okay. So, market failure. When we have something occurring in the market, there's some type of hiccup, and the easiest way, and I want you to write this down in your notes first before I move forward. When it comes to failures, many a times we're looking at what we consider overages, where we have what I call leftovers. And with leftovers, those are what we consider externalities. There's spillovers, there's leftovers. So if we were going to have a company move into this area, build a big plant, hire, 2,500 people, and that would be good for Monroe County, right? Because Monroe County, we're steeped in tourism. We have Kalahari, we have Great Wolf, we have Camelback, Camel Beach. We have stuff people come to see. But if we had more manufacturing here, that would be great. A externality or a spillover, though, would be the result of the pollution that the plant would create. All right? So, it's a good thing because that means people have jobs, they have 401ks, it's a good thing for Monroe County. However, there's kind of some leftovers. And so externalities can be what we consider positive or negative. This obviously is a negative externality. All right, pollution. A positive externality would be something dear to your heart, which would help you. I mean, there's a cost to it, but something like educational scholarships. It's going to be a cost. If Santa Fe offers educational scholarships for those that are in the biotechnology program of study, degree program, it's a cost for them to offer scholarships, but definitely is going to help us overall because then we'll have more people trained in that field and attaining the education to be an asset to our society. All right? So think of them as leftovers. Now, from the graphs and the models that we are going to use, our first model in Chapter 1 was the Production Possibilities Frontier. The second model in Chapter 2 was the Circular Flow model. Chapter 3 deals with the market model, which you just did a couple of problems on. Chapter 4 still deals with the market model. So I'm still demand to the dirt and supply to the sky, but we're looking at where the market is either in this, our marketplace is either overproducing or underproducing. And remember, I also said in economics, there can be no waste. We have to be efficient. So if we're not using our resources, right, our 5 factors of production efficiently, then there's a problem. And this is where the hiccup is. So I want you to understand we're still using the same model from Chapter 3, but we're looking at it from a different perspective overall. All right, so I need you to open your book to kind of put some meat to this. So, market failures. Open to page 85. I'm going to talk about this. You can write this down from the slide, but I want to talk about what we're looking at in regards to these overages. Market failures. Again, are we producing the right amount? Are we being careful with our resources? How many have ever heard that, sometimes farmers get paid to burn wheat? Okay, why does that happen? I'm going to start here.
I've heard about it, but I don't know why.
Don't understand it? Okay.
I don't know why either. I just heard it.
Just heard it? Why?
Is that related to the price floor they were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just they can't make money producing it, so the government steps in
Right.
and alters the minimum price so that they're making money, but then they have overages, so they have to dump them somewhere.
And so they Fire it up. What did you have? What did you want to ask?
There's too much supply, so they burn it up practically.
Right. Because if they literally took it to the market, they would lose money. And you think, well, we have people in this country hungry, don't we? You know the difference between positive and normative economics, right? So, man, why burn stuff up when we have people that could, use that food or use that corn or whatever the case may be? It deals with the marketplace. The government, remember I told you circular flow, the government has its hands everywhere. So, to assist the agricultural industry, which is still a very big part of our industry, I know that we're technology and information and, supply side economics and all of that, but agriculture is still a very, very big part of the American economy. I think in chapter 1 on Connect, you had to do a drag and drop and the economic history, right? So we did hunter-gatherer and then agriculture. And it's a very, very big part of our economy. But the government to subsidize and help farmers is that they want to make sure that the price of that commodity doesn't drop below a certain level. So in order to keep that, constant, they don't want farmers to bring so much to the market because it'll disrupt the price floor and they won't make any money. So that's why you have some wheat burning. But these resources, if they're over allocated or under allocated, we have challenges there. All right? We definitely have challenges. So on page 85, if you take a look in your textbook, the first type of surplus that we're looking at is consumer surplus. And I will jump back to the supply side of the market, but I want to talk about consumer surplus. Now, consumer surplus deals with how much you're willing to buy or spend on products. All right? So the difference of what you're willing to pay and, how much is actually is going for in the market. How many of you, I guess they're not as popular anymore. Is it Planet Hollywood that had it was the businesses owned by Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger and help me out. Is it Planet Hollywood?
So,
Right?
I think so.
Yeah, and they had restaurants in big cities. Well, I mean, to go there, you would spend maybe for just a hamburger, maybe close to $20. And so, I mean, obviously some of us had the money to buy a hamburger for $20. Some of us would go to McDonald's, and how much is a basic hamburger at McDonald's? I don't know. I don't really eat there. $1? Oh, it's on the value meal.
Yeah.
It's on the, okay, there you go. So consumer surplus is that difference between what the consumer is willing to pay and what they actually pay. If you are willing to pay more, but you don't have to spend as much, from an economy standpoint, that is an overage because you would be willing to pay more. Yeah.
Is that limited run stuff? Say that there was only 150 of an item on the secondhand market, it can be worth triple the value of it.
Like a specialty car, like a limited
Yeah,
edition?
something like that.
Okay, that's what
I-
cars just
yeah.
came to my mind.
I know a lot about vaping. A few months back, there was an item called a skeleton key.
Mm-hmm.
It was $264 originally, and they basically released 150 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Secondhand market, they were up from $700 to $800.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
instantly.
Okay.
Yeah, you had to do there was a post on the forum. You
Okay.
had to answer the riddle to get into the website to
Oh,
order
God.
it.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. I think in this case, just for our purposes, we're looking at the initial market, not necessarily secondary, but not to negate the secondary market because it's still a market.
Yeah.
It's the difference of, buying something from a retailer or, something very, very rare at the antique show.
Yeah.
And, what does it go for? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. So that's what we're looking at. Now, on page 85, table 4.1, because we're going to use this in your problem, we have 6 people whose names all begin with the letter B. So I need you to look at somebody's book if you don't have it, to make sure you understand this, because I'm going to do the table first, and then I'm going to go to the model, all right? So we have Bob, Barb, Bill, Bart, Brent, and Betty. Now, this item they're willing to pay, Bob is willing to pay $13, but it's on the market for $8. So the market literally could have made $5 more on Bob, right? Does everybody see that? If we go to Barb, she was willing to pay $12. Its sale price is $8, so the overages is $4. And we continue down all 6 consumers, and then we see what the cumulative of that consumer surplus is. So now that's what consumer surplus looks like. Let's just kind of look at it in a model, all right? Again, I'm still using the same market model that we had before, and that is still demand to the dirt, supply to the sky. But I want you to be very cognizant. Remember, I said demand is the consumer side of the market, supply is the producer side of the market. Because when I'm looking at consumer surplus, if you want to write this down, it's literally the area of a triangle. Remember geometry. What's the formula for area of a triangle? Oh, say it again. Very, very good. 1/2 base times height. You guys can kind of spring back a little bit? That's literally what this consumer surplus is. It's the area of the triangle. However, it's measured along the demand curve, consumer side of the market. So some individuals might be willing to pay, what was it, $13? And then we're just basically going down from 13 to 12 to whatever to where the market says this product is going to be sold at, and that's the $8. This entire area is consumer surplus. All right? Now, just hold that thought. Turn in your books to the other side of the market, and let's go to page 87 and look at the producer side of the market and producer surplus. All right, what is producer surplus? That is the difference between the actual price that the producer receives and the minimum price that they would accept. Okay? So, producer side, supply side of the market. Now, if you see on page 87, you'll see the producer side of the market goes along the supply schedule. The supply schedule. So what on table 4.2 in your textbook, what we have here are a list of suppliers, producers, all starting with the letter C. So we have Carlos, Courtney, Chuck, Cindy, Craig, and Chad. All right? So these people produce product. The difference between what they receive and what they would accept. Okay. Once you're done with that, just go to page 87. So when we take a look at the first person, we're looking at Carlos. Carlos was willing to receive a $3 price for that product. But the price of the product on the market is $8, right? So Carlos could have made $5 more, right? Because his minimum price was $3, but it actually is selling for $8. So there's an overage. With Courtney, minimum price $4, actual price $4. We have a producer surplus of 4, and this is just cumulative. We see that? All right. So how does that look graphically? I'll go back to my graph. Is again, producer surplus is along the supply to the sky side of our market model, and it is the area of this triangle up to where the $8 market price would be. Okay? So, with that said, let's go ahead and do a little bit of problems, and then I'm going to come back and then talk about private and public goods, which is another part of market failure when we're looking at efficiency losses and things of that sort. So let's go in your textbook, and I hope everybody has something they can share. And let's go to problems on page 106. You're going to refer to tables 4.1 and 4.2. And actually, we'll probably do number 3 as well. So on your table, at your table, I want you to complete problems 1, 2, and 3 on page 106. You'll use those tables, and then you'll use both of those tables to complete problem number 3. All right? Work together. No person is an island unto themselves. When we took a look at consumer surplus, just in regards to definition, this consumer surplus is the difference between what the consumer is willing to pay and what they actually pay. So if we have a change in this product from $8 to $11, all of these people are not going to buy anything. Only those that are going to be able to, are willing to pay $11 or more. So we have Bob, who is willing to pay $13, so 13 minus the sale price of 11, so we have a surplus of 2. We have Barb, who's willing to pay $12, and the price is 11, so we have 1. And then we have Bill, who's willing to pay 11, and the price is 11, so 0. So the summation of the consumer surplus here is 3. We okay with that? All right. Producer surplus. Carlos, Courtney, Chuck, Cindy, Craig, and Chad. What's going on there? Okay. Let's see what's happening. All right. So Carlos, the price is looking at $6, not $8. So Carlos is willing to sell at 3. The price is 6, so we have an overage of 3. Courtney, is at $4, so there's an overage of 2. For Chuck, at $5, an overage of 1. And then Cindy is at market price. So therefore we have a summation. When we add those up, that's 6. Okay? Then our final problem is we had an exchange, the marketplace between producers and buyers, and we needed to see who was going to do what. So if Bob buys units from Carlos, if Barb buys units from Courtney, and Bob buys units from Chad, so we're matching those up. So for number 3, we have Bob and Carlos, all right? We have a willingness of 13 and 3, so we have $10 there. So this is Bob and Carlos. Then we have Barb and Courtney. All right. And we have, what, 12 and 4? So we have an overage of 8 there. And then we have Bob and Chad, where we have 13 minus 8, overage of 5. So our summation for our total market is 30. Yes?
I just want to ask why you said instead of actual price. Yeah.
Okay, for the producer surplus, because it is the producer surplus, it's the actual definition. The willingness, if the market price is at one level, but they're willing to accept another price, that means there is a differential. So that's why, and again, different from consumer, blue side of the market, we're looking at producers, what they're willing to be able to bring to market. So their minimum price. All right, so, pardon?
Add
Oh.
them all up.
Yeah, then you get 23.
Oh.
What you have on the board. Yeah.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Oh, sorry. This is 23. And then, I'm sorry about that. 23 should add better than that. But it's, for the producer side, it is the minimum that they're willing, again, to bring to market. The minimum that they're willing in regards to the price that they're willing to accept. Okay? Questions on that? You'll have that on Connect. All right, so that's why I review it now. You're going to have that on Connect. Now, let's move to the next part of your chapter, which deals with public and private goods. Need to give you a little bit of a definition between the difference of these two types of goods. All right? Now, when we think of private goods, think of profit margin, think of, basic monopolistic competition where we buy and sell our stuff, all right? So we're looking at, we're buying sneakers from Foot Locker. We're buying food from Giant or Mr. Z's, whatever the case may be. That's what we're looking at. Okay. we need our board. That's what we're looking at in regards to private goods. So, now, these are produced by firms. There is rivalry and excludability. Rivalry meaning who has the money to buy. If you've got the dollars, if you got the green, the mean green, right, you can buy it. That's what we mean by that. Your ability to buy it, you got to have the money. Excludability means that if I buy it, that means Vince can't buy it because I bought it. Right? In regards to what's offered in the market. So it's excludable to me because I have the money to buy it and then I actually buy the good, the service. All right? That's what private goods, that's what distinguishes them from public goods. Turn in your textbook. Very easy to understand public goods. Because, well, depending on where you're at, anybody in New York represented New York from New York? Okay. Turn to page 92. Very easy to understand. Okay. We just had a case for Allentown, Pennsylvania, trying to get on the map. I mean, there's a whole lot of activity and new businesses happening downtown Allentown, and there's a public, there was a street entertainer, right? And when we go to, I have a daughter that goes to school in Manhattan, so it's just, all the time. When you have street entertainers, that's what we would consider public. Now, public goods, it's like a park. It's free. It's provided by the big G. It's provided by the government. If you have free art museums, free public parks, all right, they're not necessarily free, right? Why aren't they necessarily really free?
Someone has to pay for it.
And who pays for them? How do we pay for them?
Taxes.
Got it. All right? Because that's how the government makes their money. But for the fact that, you might go to the park once a month, while somebody else might go to the park maybe, every other day. So there's no rivalry. You don't have to pay for it. You can use the park at the same time I can use the park. And so there's no excludability. That's why it's not excludability. The challenge is what we call a free rider program. What we mean by that is that we can't put a price tag on the utils. Remember we talked about value added and utility? In microeconomics, you're going to do a lot with utils, and it's utility and marginal utility, looking at the change in the value added. But we can't really determine how many utils you get from going to the park versus you. So it's kind of a free rider problem because everybody can kind of get on the bandwagon and enjoy it, and it's okay. Yes?
I went to, it was a couple weeks idea, but it was more like pay what you want, like almost as a donation. Now, would that be a public or a private good? Because it's like the museum, but
Okay, so it was like a
Not-
donation thing. Were they doing
Yeah.
that just special for that time?
apparently they'll do it like at certain times. You can literally come in and you don't have to pay anything, or you could just donate like $1. You can donate like $20.
And that's where we're talking about free rider, because
Okay.
you might went through the museum and put in a 20 spot because you loved it. Vince wouldn't put in a quarter.
Yeah.
I'm picking you today, Vince. So that's where again you can't determine the utils. Like a couple of weeks ago, because I listen to KYW News Radio, Stevie Wonder gave a free concert in Philadelphia. Now, many of you may not know who he is, but in my generation, top dog in regards to songwriting. Just was in Philadelphia and just gave a free concert. Okay? So, wow, people left their office buildings, come down to listen to the songs of the Key of Life. But anyway, that's you don't put a price tag on it. I'll give you another example, although we paid to get into this museum. I was in Paris a couple of years ago, and when you go to Paris, there's certain places you go. Obviously, the Eiffel Tower, but you also, if you like art, you go to the Louvre, and the Louvre is huge, and it's underground a lot, and it takes months to get through the Louvre, and this is where the Mona Lisa is. I will tell you, going to see the Mona Lisa was such a for me, it was just like a downer. You would have thought, I'll use this, you would have thought that it was who's big star? And please don't say any of the Kardashians, but who's a big star that you would think that you would like to see?
Dwayne Johnson.
Okay, The Rock. Okay, we'll go with Dwayne Johnson. He's okay. I'm 25 feet away from the Mona Lisa. Now the Mona Lisa hangs on the wall, bulletproof fiberglass or glass in front of it. There is guards all around it. It is so many people, and it's like paparazzi for this painting. You can't even get close because everybody has their cameras up and they're taking pictures of the Mona Lisa. So when I finally squeezed up to see it, I was like, okay, yeah, it's okay. But it's mobbed. All the other parts of the Louvre are beautiful. They're gorgeous. The parts that I could actually get through. But the Mona Lisa was top dog. I mean, it was none other. So again, the value, the util. All right, now to get you ready before we leave for today, just to get you ready for a little bit as it relates to the problems that you're going to have on Connect. You're going to see a couple of problems that deal with what we call efficiency loss, where there's underproduction, where we could have produced more, but we didn't produce enough. You're going to see that in that area is looking at underproduction. Remember, there can be no waste in econ. We have to use our resources, we need to sell them, and we need to make sure that marketplace is healthy. The flip side of that is where you have overproduction, where there's too much supply, right? So where there is product that sits in inventory. How many of you have had accounting? LIFO, FIFO inventory systems, right? So inventory can become a liability if it's sitting there because you put all these resources into building a product. It's in inventory. It's not being sold. It's not on the market. That's what we're looking at, overproduction. And then the last thing I want you to turn in your textbook very quickly because you're going to see this problem in Connect. And it deals with public and private goods. Back on page 106, number 5, and actually number 6. That problem is in Connect. When you go to do, and they're going to ask you to use this demand schedule and then determine how you're going to find the optimum quantity of the public good. Please note, it's a public good. In a public good, the price of that good, it can be determined by, how many people are willing to give something. I'm trying to give you hints towards this particular problem, because this is a problem that's always a challenge for students when they do this problem in Connect. It's a public good. Please remember, it's not a private good, it's a public good. So it's the willingness of what people would be willing to pay for this, museum, $20 worth versus a quarter. You got to keep that in mind when you do number 6 on Connect. All right? So Monday, we go chapter 5. Your first exam is next Wednesday.
That's like, you were talking